As an oil delivery specialist, you're one of the frontline troops in the battle to bring the value and efficiency of oil heating to the public. You and your truck are the most visible symbols of both your company and the entire oil heating industry. As a professional, it's critical that you look professional, act professionally, and perform your duties in a professional manner at all times. This video is designed to help you do your job even better by reviewing the importance of your responsibilities toward the safety of your vehicle and cargo. But keep in mind that you are also the primary factor responsible for your own safety and that of the general public, your customers, and our environment. During the course of this presentation, we'll review the proper procedures for operating your vehicle and delivering oil to your customers in a clean, safe, and spill-free fashion. We'll also remind you that it's your responsibility to know and be familiar with all federal, state, and local regulations governing your job. If you know and always follow these rules, use common sense, maintain a constant awareness of your surroundings, and ask about anything you're not sure of, you'll be well on your way to fulfilling the tremendous trust that has been placed in you. Your first responsibility is to report to work on time and in uniform with all of your personal protection equipment. At a minimum, you should have clean work clothes, gloves, safety glasses, and safety shoes. Carry your commercial driver's license with hazmat endorsement and DOT physical card with you at all times. You'll need a driver's daily report, pre-printed meter tickets for each assigned delivery, blank meter tickets for additional stops assigned during the day, bills of lading, shipping papers, and a copy of the previous shift's post-trip inspection report. Shipping papers are vital to all hazardous material shipments. They describe the product, how hazardous it is, and also provide a contact number for use in an emergency. Always ensure that your shipping papers contain complete information as required under current regulations. Once you're sure that you have all the required paperwork, check that any defects listed on the previous shift's post-trip inspection form have been corrected. Then review your assigned deliveries and where you're going to reload your vehicle. Organize your deliveries to make the most efficient route. It's also very important to check all of your assigned deliveries for any special instructions. For instance, call before delivery, special times for delivery, COD, pickup keys, signature required, dog in yard, or special places to park. When all of your paperwork is in order, it's time to move on to your delivery vehicle. For those of you who smoke, remember that you should never smoke or carry lighted matches or other flame sources on or within 25 feet of your vehicle. During your pre-trip inspection, you must follow all procedures necessary to comply with DOT regulations, including CFR 392.7, 392.8, and 396.13. plus any additional company requirements. Although the following exceeds current requirements, we recommend you perform this thorough pre-trip inspection of your vehicle even if you always drive the same truck. This inspection should be done in the same manner every day, so it becomes a formal routine. Check the general condition of the vehicle. Look for evidence of leaks and check around the vehicle for any hazards. Make certain that the emergency shutoff valve is in the closed position. This valve must be in the closed position at all times when the vehicle is being driven or is parked. Under the hood, check your fluid levels, hoses, pumps, belts, and wiring. As you climb into the cab, be aware that the most common types of injuries reported by oil delivery specialists occur while they are entering or exiting their vehicles. Be careful. Grasp the handhold with your right hand and the door handle with your left before raising your foot to the first step. Then climb the steps one at a time. Once inside your vehicle, verify that the parking brake is properly set and start the engine. Make sure you have adequate oil pressure and the voltmeter is reading a charge of at least 12.4 volts. Verify the fuel level and that all gauges, buzzers, signals, and warning lights operate properly and the low air indicator functions until the pressure reaches 60 to 65 psi. Once you reach maximum air pressure of 120 to 125 psi, release the parking brake and observe the gauge as you apply the brakes. A 15 psi drop is normal, but if the pressure drops more than that, there is a problem. While holding down the brake pedal, listen for any air leaks and observe the air pressure. Pressure drop should not exceed 3 psi per minute with the engine running and the brakes applied. If the initial brake application results in a drop greater than 15 psi, or if you hear any leaks, or if the air pressure continues to drop, do not drive the vehicle. Notify your supervisor immediately. If the brakes test okay, then reset your parking brake. Take a few minutes to check and clean the inside of your windshield and clean and adjust all mirrors. Turn on the windshield wipers and check the blades for rips or cuts. Turn on the heater and defroster and check for temperature and airflow. Test the horn, brake lights, turn signals, and flashers. If a coworker is available, have him or her watch as you check your turn signals and brake lights. Check all controls, including the steering wheel, clutch, accelerator, brake controls, and transmission, as well as the seat belts and mounts. Check to be certain that all required paperwork is on board. You must have a current hazmat registration certificate, shipping papers for the product you're carrying, an emergency response document, and a copy of the last post-trip inspection report. Also check for any additional paperwork required by the state, municipality, or your company, such as an insurance certificate, vehicle registration card, accident report kit, etc. These documents must be within your immediate reach with your seatbelt fastened. They must either be easily accessible to someone opening your door or secured in a plastic pouch or holder mounted on the inside of the driver's door. Make sure your cab is free of any objects that might create a hazard. Chains, toolboxes, and other items should not be kept in the cab. They should be properly stowed and secured. Next, turn on your lights and flashers and step out of the cab to continue your inspection. Safely leave the cab the way you got in. Turn in your seat so your back faces the door. Hold on with both hands and step down one step at a time. Never jump down from the truck. Before you take the last step, check the ground for hazards before stepping onto it. Check around your vehicle for defects in the tank, frame and frame rails, wheels, rims and fasteners, tires and mud flaps, battery box, drive shaft, suspension, springs, hold downs, steering, brakes, air tanks, ladder, fuel tank and cap, exhaust system, and all lights. Listen for audible air leaks. Check the pump drive shaft, manifolds and piping, meter compartment, meter seal and register, as well as the nozzle, swivel, trigger, and latch plate. Check that there is no debris in the meter compartment. Although it's not required, it's also a good safety habit to shut off the meter valve and keep it closed except when delivering. Make certain that all necessary license plates, placards, permits, and registrations are proper, in place, and clearly visible. Pay particular attention to your placards. In this case, the 1993 alerts emergency personnel that the contents of your truck is fuel oil. Make sure the placarding is consistent on all four sides, visible from a distance of 50 feet, and not obstructed. Although it is not required for transporting fuel oil, some tanks carry a specification plate indicating that the tank has been certified to carry other types of hazardous materials. If your truck's tank has such a plate, check that it has been inspected annually and that markings indicating those inspections are clearly visible. Verify that all necessary equipment is on board and is in usable condition, including fill fittings and gaskets, caution sign, reflectors, spider wrench, pipe wrench, tank charts, oil absorbent, rags, spill kit, first aid kit, wheel chocks, hand tools for priming if applicable in your area. Make sure all lights, turn signals, and windows are clean. Once you're back inside your vehicle, complete your pre-trip inspection form. If you have found any defects, report them immediately to your supervisor. Do not operate a vehicle with safety defects. Now that you've thoroughly checked your vehicle and ensured that you have all paperwork required for the day, it's time to start moving. However, one last caution before you hit the road. Throughout the day, be sure to wear your seatbelt and make sure that your cab is well ventilated to prevent the possibility of carbon monoxide buildup. Remember that your truck is a rolling billboard, and your actions behind the wheel reflect on you, your company, and our industry. Your vehicle is much bigger, heavier, and harder to stop than most other vehicles on the road. It's extremely important that you stay alert and in control at all times. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but don't let other drivers get to you. You'll encounter people on a regular basis who will cut you off, violate your right-of-way, and cause aggravation in countless other ways. But you can never lose your temper or react foolishly, no matter how irritating other drivers may be. Courtesy and defensive driving go hand in hand. Follow these suggestions to steer clear of difficult situations. Obey all posted speed limits and regulations. Reduce your speed when approaching curves. Keep in mind that the product in the tank tends to slosh and will affect your ability to control the vehicle, especially during turns. Give proper signals in advance of all maneuvers, and remember to turn signals off when the maneuver is completed. Use your mirrors to continually stay aware of other vehicles around you. Take your turn in traffic and be sure you have adequate time and clearance when turning, changing lanes, or entering traffic. Give the right-of-way willingly, and don't tailgate. Always leave sufficient distance between vehicles, even if you've been cut off. Be on the alert for pedestrians, especially children and senior citizens. Always come to a full stop at railroad crossings and never enter a crossing or an intersection unless you have ample room to clear it completely. Do not shift gears while crossing tracks. Adjust your speed to allow for weather conditions. Use chains when necessary. Always try to park in a place where you won't have to back up. If you must back up, check behind your vehicle first. Remember, you're a professional. Stay aware and in control, and don't let other drivers get to you. If another driver wants to take the road, let him have it. The road will be there long after he's gone. When it's time to reload your vehicle, advise your dispatcher and confirm that you're proceeding to the proper terminal. When you arrive at the loading facility, follow all rules, regulations, and instructions. Stop your vehicle 50 feet from the rack and look for evidence of oil spills or potential problems. Turn off all radio and communications equipment. Be sure the stairs and any other obstacles are out of the way before pulling under the rack. Note the location of the emergency shutoff and emergency firefighting equipment. Here are the recommended procedures for top-loading your delivery truck. For this presentation, we've chosen a typical terminal. However, required procedures may vary from terminal to terminal. It's your responsibility to know and follow those procedures in order to load in a clean, safe, spill-free manner. Properly position your truck at the correct rack for the product you're loading. Set the parking brake. This is the time to check all of your tires. It's much easier to change a flat tire before you load. Be sure to chock your rear wheels. Connect the static grounding device to your truck. Enter your ID information into the loading system, choose the product to be loaded, and preset the number of gallons to be loaded. Take care when climbing ladders and stepping onto or off of your truck. Wear gloves and the rest of your personal protective equipment. Be especially careful during rain, ice, and snow conditions. Make sure the stairs are stable and resting securely on the truck. Never step on the round part of the truck. Remove any ice or snow from the top of the tank, making certain that drains are open to allow water to run off. Do not let any water enter the tank. Open the dome cover and inspect the gasket and the vent, making certain that the vent is free of ice and snow. Check that the manhole is firmly secured to the tank. Select the proper loading arm and swing it over the top of the truck. Fill only one compartment at a time. Keep all other compartments closed. Insert the loading arm completely into the loading hatch, establishing metal-to-metal contact. Walk back to the platform to select and push the proper product start button. Make sure the arm won't jump out from the pressure. Slowly open the meter valve and inspect the product for proper color and cleanliness. Stop filling immediately if there's a problem. Manually control the valve. Do not tie or prop it open. Submerge the arm as soon as possible in order to minimize the buildup of static electricity. Fill the tank slowly until the end of the arm is in the oil. Observe the level as you fill the tank to ensure that no product spills out, and load the compartment only to the fill indicators. There should be a minimum of 1% expansion space when fully loaded. After closing the valve, leave the loading arm in the fuel for 1 full minute to allow static charges to dissipate. Remove the arm carefully and slowly, allowing the arm and spout to drain. Double-check that there is no product left in the arm by extending it fully and draining it a second time. Carefully connect the drip bucket to the loading arm and secure the arm into its storage position. Close and latch the dome cover. Return to the loading platform and pull the steps off your truck. Return to the loading system and initiate a bill of lading. Disconnect the grounding device and put it back in place. Remove the chocks and restow them on your truck. Walk around the truck to be sure you have a clear path. Drive out from under the rack and park at the invoicing area. Do not turn on any electrical or communications devices until you've moved at least 50 feet from the rack. Complete all necessary paperwork and put the bill of lading into the proper receptacle in the cab of your vehicle. Some trucks are equipped for bottom loading. Let's look at the procedures that differ from top loading. Connect the grounding sensor system to your vehicle. Remove the cover from the correct fill manifold. Attach the vapor hose to the truck's vapor connector. Connect the proper arm to the manifold using a dry brake coupler and open the dry brake. Enter your ID information into the loading system. Choose the product to be loaded and preset the number of gallons to be loaded. Remain with the loading arm throughout the loading process. When loading is complete, close the dry brake, disconnect the loading arm, and return it to its stored position. Disconnect the vapor hose and return it to its stored position. Disconnect the grounding device and put it back in place. Replace the manifold cover. Then continue with the rest of the procedure followed for top loading. Initiate a bill of lading, remove the chocks, check around the truck, and proceed to the invoicing area. There are many different types of meters and registers in use today. The following procedures may have to be modified for the particular meter and register installed on your delivery vehicle. Your job is to cleanly and safely deliver fuel oil to your customer without leaving a trace of your presence, except for a properly completed delivery ticket. That means you don't pull the hose through plantings or flower beds. You don't mark the fill location on the house. You don't leave gates open so pets can escape. And most important, you don't leave oil anywhere but in the correct tank. It also means that if you are unsure of anything, you must check with the customer or your office before proceeding. If this is the first delivery your company is making to the location, make certain you have the correct location, the correct fill pipe, and the fill pipe is properly connected to the correct tank. Never assume everything is properly connected. Always check. If you have any doubts, consult with your supervisor. We'll start with a typical basement or in-house tank. Over the years, the following procedures have been proven to be extremely successful. Park your vehicle safely. Avoid driveways unless you have prior approval. Turn on your flashers and set the parking brake. Always try to park in an area that allows you to maintain visual contact with the truck throughout the delivery process. Verify the delivery address and remember that it may not be the same as the billing address. Some towns have similar addresses like Elm Street, Elm Road, Elm Avenue, etc. Spend an extra couple of seconds before you start pumping to make sure you're filling the right tank. Here, we make certain it is Darkest Road. Check the delivery ticket for the tank location and any special instructions. If the tank location differs from the directions on the ticket, check with the customer or verify with your supervisor before making the delivery. If the PTO is in the cab, engage it now. Check your mirrors for oncoming traffic before safely exiting your vehicle. Open the emergency shutoff valve. Use wheel chocks when appropriate. Take a rag or wiping cloth with you and walk the hose run. Check for any safety hazards. Clear the path of any objects that might damage your hose and be certain you have a clear pull to the fill. Inspect the fill and vent pipes, the fill cap and gasket if fitted, as well as the vent cap. Make sure they're in good shape and constructed of the proper material so they don't allow any water or other substances to enter the tank. Clear away any water, ice, snow, dirt, or debris that might enter the tank when you remove the fill cap. Check for evidence of spills from previous deliveries. If you notice any problems, notify your supervisor before proceeding. Determine the type of fill fitting you'll need and return to your delivery vehicle. Insert the ticket into the register after making certain that it's been zeroed out. If you're delivering a fixed amount of oil, set the register accordingly, and if possible, check the tank level to assure it has enough capacity for the delivery. Ensure the meter valve is open, and assure the PTO is engaged. Unreel the hose and walk it to the tank. To avoid injury, carry the hose over your shoulder, lean slightly forward, use your legs, and hold the nozzle with both hands. Keep the nozzle pointed up to avoid oil drips. If the hose crosses a walkway, place a safety warning for pedestrians. Attach the nozzle into the fill fitting until it's tight, and to avoid injury, bend at the knees or kneel. Don't bend over at your hips. Open the nozzle slowly, look for leaks, and listen for the vent alarm. If there is an oil leak, or if the whistle doesn't sound or sounds restricted, stop filling immediately and try to determine the problem. If you can't correct the problem, contact your supervisor before proceeding. Stay with the nozzle throughout the delivery and maintain your concentration. Don't get distracted or you may miss the moment when the vent alarm signal stops. When the audible vent alarm stops, immediately shut off the delivery switch. Wait a few moments to allow residual oil from the nozzle to enter the tank and for any pressure to dissipate. Carefully disconnect the nozzle, raising the end of the hose to avoid spillage. Use a clean rag to wipe off the nozzle, replace the fill cap securely, and carry the hose back to your truck. Again, pull the hose over your shoulder. Never drag the nozzle on the ground. Don't use the hose reel to pull the nozzle end of the hose back from the delivery area. Gently place the nozzle on the ground, making sure it stays clean and dry before you engage the reel spool. Use this opportunity to inspect the hose for cuts, abrasion, or wear as it winds evenly on the reel. When the spool has returned all but 6 to 10 feet of the hose, pick up the nozzle and secure it in its holder. Shut off the PTO and close the valves. Clean up minor drips and dribbles and report any overfills, drips, or spills, no matter how small, to your office. Remember to check for and clean up minor drips at the truck. Complete the delivery ticket and check it for accuracy. Be sure to note any discrepancies that the customer should be aware of, for example, tank not filled. Place the ticket where the customer can easily find it unless you have other instructions. Do not put the ticket in a mailbox. U.S. postal regulations prohibit putting anything other than mail in mailboxes. On the company copy of the ticket, write anything that requires follow-up, such as any changes in instructions, any fill or vent problems, etc. Double-check that you have all of your fittings and equipment before leaving. Be sure to remove and stow your wheel chocks. Before heading to your next stop, check the area around your truck to be certain that no one has parked near you or created additional obstacles while you were delivering. Remember to close the emergency shutoff valve. When you return to the cab, fasten your seatbelt. Locate your next delivery address and remember these basic safety tips. Turn off your flashers, check your mirrors, and use your turn signal before pulling into traffic. As mentioned, ideally you should park where you can see your truck from the fill. However, if your truck is parked where you can't see it, you must visually check it every 5 minutes while filling. Do not leave the nozzle switch on when you leave the fill area to check the truck. Regulations also dictate that you cannot be more than 150 feet from the truck or more than 25 feet from the fill while oil is flowing. Oil tanks are not always located in basements or inside buildings. They can be buried underground or located outside above the ground. While the basics of delivery are the same, there are a few key differences in the procedures when delivering to these types of tanks. It's always a good practice to stick or measure buried tanks before and after filling. Use a good water-finding paste to determine if there's any water in the tank before filling. If you find water, contact your office for instructions. In addition to determining if there's water in the tank, measuring the tank before delivery offers several other advantages. First, it's a good way to confirm that it's a fuel tank and avoid accidentally filling something else, like a septic system or well. Second, you'll have a fairly accurate estimate of how much fuel the tank will take. Third, writing the stick reading on your ticket before and after delivery helps to confirm that the delivery was made and that the correct gallons are registered. Finally, it may help to detect a leaking tank. Filling buried tanks normally requires the use of a deep fill, also known as a bazooka or whistle pipe with a built-in vent alarm. When using a deep fill, first check to make sure that the stop pad is in place and the diverter is intact. Then insert the pipe into the tank, slowly pull it up until it catches the tank top, and secure it in place. Connect your hose securely to the fitting and begin filling the tank. When you're finished delivering, let the pipe stand for a few seconds to allow any oil on the pipe to drain into the tank. Then remove the pipe and wipe it down with a rag to avoid dripping oil on the property before returning to the truck. Some buried tanks will not accept a deep fill pipe because of an elbow in the fill pipe. Normally, these tanks have a vent alarm installed and can be filled in the same way as basement tanks. If you come across a buried tank that doesn't accept the deep fill and doesn't have a working vent alarm, contact your supervisor before proceeding. Before filling above-ground tanks, always check for signs of leakage, wet spots, and corrosion. Make certain the tank is well supported and the legs are in good shape. Some tanks, often commercial and construction site tanks, have no vent alarm installed. Be extremely careful when filling these tanks. Use the proper fitting on your nozzle and watch the level closely as you fill. Be sure to leave an adequate expansion area to avoid spills after you leave. When you've completed all of your assigned deliveries for the day, contact your office before heading back. There may be additional deliveries or loading instructions waiting for you. At the end of the shift, perform and file a post-trip inspection report that complies with DOT regulations, including CFR 396.11. Properly filling out and submitting the post-trip report brings any necessary maintenance issues to your supervisor's attention, so your vehicle can be properly readied for the next shift. Sometimes, in spite of our best efforts, oil spills do occur. When this happens, it's imperative that we do our best to control the magnitude and minimize harm to people, property, and the environment. Should you experience a spill, first protect yourself. Quickly and safely stop the flow if possible. Assess the risk and report the spill to your office. Contain the spill as well as possible until help arrives. Use your spill kit to absorb as much of the spill as possible. Make a temporary dike if necessary. If a basement tank is leaking, make certain that any sump pumps are unplugged. Since fuel oil is considered a hazardous material, it's important that you understand in advance what to do in case of an emergency. Fuel oil is relatively safe, but it can create hazardous conditions if released. Inhalation or contact may cause irritation to the lungs, eyes, and skin. Be sure to familiarize yourself with Guide 128 of the DOT Emergency Response Guidebook. When dealing with fires, the use of water spray may be inefficient. For small fires, dry chemical, CO2, or regular foam is recommended. Always stay away from tanks engulfed in fire. When confronting spills or leaks, eliminate all ignition sources. That means no smoking, flares, sparks, or flames in the immediate area. Keep unauthorized personnel away. First, stop the leak if you can do so easily without risk to yourself. Then, call your office and/or the emergency response number listed on the shipping papers. If you get oil on you, follow these first aid procedures. Flush your eyes with running water for at least 20 minutes. Wash your skin with soap and water. Don't wait for an emergency to familiarize yourself with Guide 128. Review it periodically so that if an emergency arises, you'll be thoroughly comfortable with the procedures required to handle it effectively. The clean, safe, and spill-free delivery of fuel oil depends on three things: your own skills and safe work practices that protect you, your customers, the general public, and our environment; your adherence to the policies and procedures that regulate your profession; your total concentration on the task at hand and avoidance of distractions. Simply put, the clean, safe, and spill-free delivery of fuel oil depends on you.